Welcome back to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast.
Yes?
Today, we're taking a deep dive into punishments in Islamic law,
Right.
and specifically looking at the Hadith collection, Sahih Muslim, Book 17,
Right.
Punishments Prescribed by Islam.
So a fascinating glimpse into how early Muslims really grappled with concepts of justice
Yeah,
and how they applied divine law.
exactly.
It's a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to approach it with sensitivity and a willingness to really understand the historical and social context in which these laws were established.
Yeah.
These texts can be challenging to our modern sensibilities,
Yeah.
but they offer a valuable opportunity to examine how societies throughout history
Yeah.
have tried to maintain order and uphold moral values and
That's
protect
correct.
the rights of their citizens.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to sort of read these texts through
Yeah,
a modern lens and miss those nuances
for sure.
of the
Yeah.
time.
Definitely.
What really caught my eye going through this book was just the specificity of some of the punishments. Take theft, for example.
Okay.
There's a whole system, it seems like,
Right.
for determining
Okay, exactly.
when a thief's hand should be amputated.
Yeah, you've hit on
Yeah.
key aspect of Islamic law,
Okay.
which is its emphasis on clarity and objectivity.
Okay.
The aim was to establish very clear guidelines to minimize ambiguity
Mm-hmm.
and ensure fairness in the application of justice.
So,
So in the case of theft,
yeah.
the Hadith actually provide a pretty detailed framework.
Okay.
Specifically, Hadith 4175 through 4179.
Okay.
Aisha, the Prophet Muhammad's wife,
Mm-hmm.
narrated that the punishment of amputation
Right.
was reserved for cases where the stolen goods reached a certain value,
Okay.
a quarter of a dinar or more.
So a quarter of a dinar.
Yes.
I mean, that's to grasp the significance of that. We need to know
Yeah.
what a dinar was worth back then.
Absolutely. You need that context.
Yeah.
A dinar was a gold coin,
Okay.
and a quarter dinar represented a substantial sum of money.
Okay.
Hadith 4181, I think, helps us visualize this.
Okay.
It compares it to the price of essential items in those days.
Okay.
Imagine the cost of a shield,
Yeah.
a sturdy iron coat,
Wow.
or even a full set of armor.
Okay.
These were valuable possessions
Yeah.
that provided protection and status in that society.
Right.
And theft of such items
Yeah.
would have represented a significant loss,
Okay.
both financially and in terms of security.
So it wasn't about punishing every petty theft.
Exactly.
It was about protecting these
yeah.
assets that were vital to people's,
Their livelihood.
their livelihoods and safety.
Yes.
Okay.
Remember, this was a society where individual wealth and
Mhm.
possessions
Yeah.
were often directly tied to survival.
Right.
Theft on a larger scale could disrupt the economic stability of
Yeah.
an entire community.
Wow.
The punishment for theft, while appearing harsh
It
to
is.
modern eyes,
Right.
served as a powerful deterrent against such disruption.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then I came across Hadith 4185,
Okay.
where the Prophet Muhammad curses a thief
Right.
for stealing seemingly insignificant items like an egg
Yeah.
or a rope.
Oh, yeah.
It feels a bit jarring.
Okay.
After reading about the thresholds for amputation,
Hey.
it seems like a contradiction.
It's an astute observation.
Okay.
And I think it speaks to a deeper layer
Okay.
of the legal framework.
Hmm.
You're right. The curse for stealing even small items
Yeah.
might seem at odds with the specific thresholds
Right.
for amputation. However, it reflects a broader principle
Okay.
within Islamic teachings.
Okay.
Respect for ownership,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of the value of the property.
Okay.
Even small acts of theft were
Mhm.
condemned because they eroded trust
Mhm.
and undermined the social fabric.
So it's like there's two levels
Yeah.
of addressing the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You have this severe punishment
Right.
for major offenses to deter large-scale theft.
Right.
And then you have a moral condemnation
Yeah.
of even minor theft
Yeah.
to cultivate a culture of respect
Yeah, exactly.
for property.
It's a multifaceted approach
Yeah.
to upholding justice
Okay.
and societal harmony.
So this idea of a had punishment,
Yes.
divinely ordained
Yes.
and fixed in its application,
Mm-hmm.
is central to understanding
Very much so.
the Islamic
Yeah.
legal system.
It's a key concept.
Okay, so had punishments are set by divine decree,
That's right.
leaving very little room for human interpretation.
Minimal human intervention.
The punishment for theft, once those thresholds are met, is predetermined.
That's right.
Okay.
Had punishments are seen as pronouncements from a higher authority, and they're considered absolute in their application. This concept reflects a belief that certain acts
are inherently wrong
right.
and warrant a specific unchangeable punishment.
Okay.
It's important to note that this concept of fixed punishments wasn't unique to Islamic law.
Right.
Other legal systems of the time, both religious and secular, also incorporated elements of divinely ordained or immutable laws.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That context is really helpful.
Good.
So we've talked about theft
Right.
as one act subject to had punishment.
Yes.
The text also addresses adultery. And the punishments outlined for that are...
They're definitely attention-grabbing.
Yeah, they caught my attention.
Yeah.
For sure.
The Hadith, specifically numbers 4191 and 4192, draw a clear distinction between the punishments for married and unmarried individuals who commit adultery. So for unmarried individuals, the punishment is 100 lashes and exile for a year. So a severe consequence aimed at both physical punishment and social isolation.
For married adulterers, however, the punishment is 100 lashes, followed by stoning to death.
Wow, it's
significant?
Yeah, it's a significant difference.
It is.
And I can imagine the stoning punishment in particular is one that raises a lot of questions and concerns for people today.
It's a punishment that's difficult to reconcile with modern sensibilities.
Right.
And it's crucial to approach this topic with sensitivity.
Of course.
And a nuanced understanding of the historical context.
Yeah.
Hadith 4194, I think, offers some insight into the rationale behind this punishment. Caliph Umar, one of the Prophet's close companions, and a key figure in the early Muslim community, explained that the basis for stoning was found in Islamic law. However, he also stressed the stringent requirements for proof in such cases.
So it wasn't something that was carried out lightly?
No, not at all.
Or based on just rumors?
No, it required multiple witnesses to testify. Or a confession had to be given freely and willingly.
Wow, so there were a lot of requirements in place to...
And even then, there were instances where the Prophet himself seemed reluctant to accept confessions of adultery, as we'll explore a bit later. It's as if there was a conscious effort to avoid this punishment whenever possible, even when the evidence seemed clear.
That's really interesting.
It is.
It sounds like there was a strong emphasis on avoiding this particular punishment if at all possible.
It speaks, I think, to a larger principle within Islamic law, the concept of mercy. While justice is paramount, there's this concurrent focus on compassion and understanding, particularly when dealing with such a grave matter as adultery. It's a recognition that human beings are fallible and that even in the face of transgression, there's a possibility for redemption and forgiveness.
Interesting. So let's delve into those cases where individuals confess to adultery. Hadiths 4196 through 4209 offer some really powerful examples. What struck me was the Prophet's reluctance to accept those confessions. It seems like he was almost trying to talk people out of admitting to adultery.
You're picking up on a very important nuance there. The Prophet's actions in these cases really highlight the tension between upholding the law and demonstrating compassion. Consider the story of Ma'az bin Malik. This man came before the Prophet and repeatedly confessed to adultery. Instead of immediately accepting his confession, the Prophet questioned Ma'az's sanity, asked if he was intoxicated, and even suggested that perhaps he had only committed a lesser offense. It was as if he was seeking any other explanation to avoid having to carry out the prescribed punishment.
It seemed like you wanted to give him a chance to retract.
Exactly. Maybe realizing the severity of what he was admitting to, it suggests a profound awareness of the weight of the punishment and a desire to avoid it, if at all possible.
And this tension between upholding the law and showing compassion is further highlighted by the diverse reactions within the community after Maiz was eventually stoned.
Right.
Some believed his punishment was just and necessary, while others admired his sincere repentance, viewing his willingness to face the consequences as a testament to his faith.
It's a complex situation.
It really shows how even within a system of fixed punishments, there was room for interpretation and debate.
It certainly does. Yeah. And the story of the woman from the tribe of Kamid, detailed in those same hadith, further illustrates this point. She also confessed to adultery, but with an added complication. She was pregnant.
That's a difficult situation.
It is.
How did the prophet handle that case?
So in this instance, the prophet decided to delay the punishment until after the woman had given birth and weaned her child. This decision demonstrates the consideration given to the child's welfare and highlights a compassionate aspect of Islamic law that often gets overlooked. It suggests that the well-being of an innocent life, even one born out of transgression, was considered a priority.
That's incredibly interesting. It shows that even within this framework of strict punishments, there was room for flexibility and mercy. Especially when innocent lives were involved.
For sure.
It seems like individual circumstances were taken into account when applying the law.
It's a crucial point. Islamic law wasn't about blindly following a set of rules. It involved a nuanced understanding of individual circumstances, a consideration for context, and a striving to achieve a just and compassionate outcome.
All right, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
Regarding the punishments for theft and adultery and the principles behind them, I think we need to take a break here and come back. And dive into some other aspects of Islamic law in part 2.
Sounds good.
So far, we've really delved into the intricacies of punishments for theft and adultery and the principles of justice and mercy that underpin them. It's fascinating how Islamic law, even in its most serious applications, aims to balance these seemingly contrasting ideals.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious how those principles apply to other aspects of life in early Islamic society. Like, for example, how did Islamic law deal with non-Muslims living within its jurisdiction?
That's a great question. And it takes us to the heart how Islamic law navigated the realities of a diverse society. Hadith 4:2-11 offers a particularly illuminating example. It recounts the case of a Jewish man and woman who were brought before the Prophet Muhammad for committing adultery.
This is where things get really interesting, right?
Yes.
Because we're now talking about individuals who don't necessarily adhere to the same religious laws as the majority Muslim population.
And the Prophet's actions in this situation are quite revealing. So instead of immediately imposing Islamic law, he took a different approach. He inquired about the Jewish law regarding adultery, essentially seeking to understand how this particular offense was addressed within their own faith tradition.
So he was acknowledging the existence of a separate legal system and attempting to apply the relevant laws of that system.
Precisely. This approach highlights the concept of dhimmi, which refers to non-Muslims living under Islamic rule. They were granted protection, allowed to practice their own religions, and in legal matters, there was an emphasis on fairness and respecting established covenants.
So it wasn't about imposing Islamic law on everyone. But rather ensuring that justice was served according to each community's
their own beliefs and traditions. The Prophet's actions in this case demonstrate a recognition of the complexities of a multi-faith society and a commitment to upholding agreements, even in sensitive matters like adultery. This commitment to fairness and respect for established covenants is a valuable lesson. I think that transcends historical context. It reminds us of the importance of interfaith understanding and the need to engage with diverse communities in a just and equitable manner.
It's a powerful example of how a legal system can accommodate diversity while still maintaining
its core principles.
Its core principles. But I'm also aware that we can't shy away from the more challenging aspects of this history.
Of course.
The reality is that slavery existed during this time period, and Islamic law addressed this reality.
It did.
How is that reflected in the texts we're examining?
It's a sensitive and undeniably difficult topic to discuss.
For sure.
And it's crucial to approach it with humility and a willingness to learn from the past without condoning its every aspect. Hadiths 4219 through 4223 deal specifically with the case of a slave woman who commits adultery.
I imagine these passages are particularly jarring for modern readers. It's hard to reconcile the concept of slavery with our contemporary understanding of human rights.
Absolutely. Slavery is a dark chapter in human history. A brutal system that inflicted immense suffering on millions. It's essential to acknowledge this unequivocally and to approach these texts with that understanding. The punishment for a slave woman who committed adultery, as described in these hadiths, was flogging in cases of repeated offenses. The option to sell the woman was also presented.
It's undeniably difficult to reconcile these punishments with our modern sensibilities. But as you said, it's vital to remember the historical context.
Precisely. While we can't erase or condone the harsh realities of the past, we can strive to understand them within their historical context. We can acknowledge the complexities of the time, recognizing that even within a system as abhorrent as slavery, there were attempts to establish some semblance of order and to mitigate to some extent the cruelty inherent in such a system.
It's a reminder that progress is an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
Our understanding of justice, human rights, and dignity has evolved significantly.
For sure.
Since those times.
Thankfully so.
And thankfully so.
And while we can learn from the past, we don't have to condone its every aspect. We can critique the practices of earlier societies while still acknowledging the complexities they faced and the efforts they made within their own contexts to establish justice and order.
Before we move on, there's one more hadith related to this topic that I found particularly striking. Hadith 4222 describes the Prophet's instructions to delay the punishment of a slave woman who had recently given birth. This seems like a powerful example of mercy.
It is.
Being extended even within a system that often appears quite rigid.
It's a beautiful illustration of the interplay between justice and compassion that we've been discussing. The Prophet recognized the vulnerability of a new mother and chose to postpone her punishment, prioritizing her well-being and that of her newborn child. This act echoes the earlier example of the woman from the Gamid tribe who was also pregnant and whose punishment was delayed.
These instances offer a glimpse into the nuanced application of Islamic law. They remind us that even within a system that can be quite strict, there was space for compassion and a consideration for individual circumstances. These examples underscore the importance of recognizing the humanity of all individuals.
Regardless of their social standing or the nature of their transgressions, they highlight the enduring relevance of seeking balance between justice and mercy. A timeless principle that transcends specific legal systems or historical periods.
Well, that covers a lot of ground.
It does.
We've journeyed from the nuanced application of Islamic law to non-Muslims to the complexities and challenges of addressing slavery within a historical context.
It has been both fascinating and thought-provoking.
But there's still more to explore.
There is.
We've touched upon the punishments for theft and adultery.
Yeah.
But what about other offenses? Like drinking wine, for example. Was that addressed in Islamic law?
Absolutely. The consumption of alcohol was a topic of significant discussion and debate within the early Muslim community. Hadiths 4226 through 4233 provide a fascinating glimpse into how this issue was addressed and how the approach to punishment evolved over time. What's immediately striking is that the number of lashes given for drinking wine wasn't always fixed. It seems to have varied.
Interesting.
Depending on the circumstances and even the individuals involved in administering the punishment.
That's interesting. I would have assumed that, like, the punishments for theft and adultery, there would have been a clear, predetermined punishment. What led to this variation?
So it seems that during the Prophet Muhammad's lifetime, the punishment for drinking wine could range from 40 lashes to being struck with palm branches and shoes.
Wow.
Anas bin Malik, a companion of the Prophet, narrated that there wasn't a set number of lashes in that time.
So it was a bit more fluid?
It was, perhaps reflecting the evolving understanding of the severity of this offense and the most appropriate way to address it.
So even during the Prophet's time, there was room for interpretation?
It seems that way.
Adaptation.
And this flexibility continued during the rule of Abu Bakr, the first caliph, after the Prophet's death. The punishment remained at 40 lashes during his time. However, things shifted during the caliphate of Umar, the second caliph.
I've heard that Umar was known for his decisive leadership.
He was.
And his efforts to consolidate and formalize Islamic law.
That's right.
Did he play a role in standardizing?
He did.
The punishment for drinking wine?
Hadith 4226 tells us that Umar, in his characteristically thorough manner, consulted with the companions of the Prophet to discuss this issue. During these consultations, Abd al-Rahman B., another prominent companion, suggested that the punishment be set at 80 lashes. Considering it to be the mildest option compared to the harsher punishments that had been applied previously.
So it went from a more fluid range of punishments to a fixed 80 lashes under Umar's leadership.
Under his leadership.
What do you think motivated this shift?
So I think it reflects the ongoing process of interpretation and consensus building that characterized the development of Islamic law. As the Muslim community grew and expanded, there was a need for greater clarity and consistency in the application of legal principles. Umar's decision to standardize the punishment for drinking wine after consulting with the companions highlights the importance of communal deliberation and consensus in shaping Islamic jurisprudence.
Interesting.
It shows that Islamic law wasn't static. It was a dynamic system, capable of adapting to new challenges and evolving understandings.
It's fascinating to see how this legal system evolved over time.
It is.
And it raises another question in my mind. What about offenses that didn't fall under those specific categories of had punishments that we talked about earlier, like theft and adultery? How are those dealt with?
That's where the concept of tazir comes in. It's a distinct category of punishment within Islamic law and plays a crucial role in addressing a wider range of offenses that might not have fixed divinely ordained punishments.
So tazir is separate from had.
Yes, it is.
Can you elaborate on the key differences between the two?
Had punishments, as we discussed, are those that are specifically mandated in Islamic texts and are fixed in their application. They're seen as divine pronouncements and leave very little room for human interpretation.
Tazir, on the other hand, refers to discretionary punishments.
That's right. They're not specifically defined in the Quran or Hadith, but are left to the discretion of judges or rulers. Hadith 4234 actually sets a limit for tazir punishments, stating that they should not exceed 10 lashes for offenses not subject to had.
So for those offenses that don't fall under the specific categories of had,
that's right,
there's a degree of flexibility.
There is.
In determining the punishment.
That's the key distinction. The purpose of tazir is not necessarily retribution or revenge, but rather correction and deterrence. It's about guiding individuals away from wrongdoing and protecting society from harm. This flexibility allows for a more nuanced approach to justice.
Taking into account the specific circumstances of the offense.
Okay.
And the individual involved.
It seems like Tazir allows judges to consider factors like the severity of the offense, the intent of the offender, and any mitigating circumstances that might warrant a lighter punishment.
Exactly. It recognizes that not all offenses are created equal.
Right.
And that a one-size-fits-all approach to punishment would be unjust.
Right.
This flexibility also acknowledges that human behavior is complex and that punishment should aim to reform and rehabilitate whenever possible rather than simply punish.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It seems like Tazir serves an important function.
It does.
In balancing the need for justice with the recognition that people can make mistakes.
Yes.
And deserve a chance to make amends.
It's a nuanced approach to justice that highlights the importance
of considering individual circumstances and striving for a balance between accountability and compassion.
This conversation has been incredibly insightful.
Good.
It's fascinating to delve into the intricacies of Islamic law.
It is.
And to see how these concepts of justice, mercy, and societal well-being were woven into the fabric of this legal system.
Yes.
But we're not done yet.
We're not.
There's more to uncover in Book 17 of Sahih Muslim.
That's right.
And I'm eager to continue our deep dive in Part 3.
Looking forward to it.
Stay tuned. We've covered so much ground in our exploration of Islamic law, you know, from the specific punishments for theft and adultery to the nuanced application of the law to non-Muslims and the complexities of addressing slavery. In a historical context, it's been quite a journey.
It really has.
And through it all, we've seen this recurring theme of balancing justice with mercy.
Yes, that tension between upholding the law and demonstrating compassion is woven throughout Islamic legal thought.
Absolutely. And that brings to mind a concept we touched upon earlier.
Okay.
The idea that undergoing head punishment serves as expiation for the sin.
Yes.
Hadiths 4235 through 4238.
Okay.
Really delve into this. It's a complex concept.
It is.
But it seems so central to understanding how punishments were viewed in Islamic law. It wasn't simply about retribution or revenge.
Right.
It was about purification.
Yes.
About restoring balance.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
This concept of expiation through punishment might seem foreign to us today.
Right.
But it speaks to a different understanding of the relationship between the individual, the community, and divine justice.
Right.
The idea was that by undergoing the prescribed punishment, the individual was cleansed of the sin and could move forward with a clean slate.
So the punishment itself was almost like a form of atonement.
Yeah.
A way of resetting the scales.
Or justice.
Restoring that balance.
Yeah, and allowing the individual to re-enter society.
Right.
Free from the burden of their transgression.
That's right.
It's a very different way of thinking about crime and punishment.
It is.
Than what we're accustomed to in many modern legal systems.
It highlights how interwoven the concepts of law, morality, and spirituality were in early Islamic society. Punishment wasn't just about deterring future crime or isolating offenders. It was about restoring harmony, both within the individual and within the community as a whole.
So this interconnectedness between individual well-being and the overall harmony of the community is a recurring theme.
It is.
In Islamic thought.
Very much so.
And practice.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach to justice.
That considers not only the offense and the offender, but also the impact on the community and the need for healing and reconciliation.
Exactly.
And this holistic approach extends to how Islamic law addressed situations where harm was caused unintentionally. We touched upon this briefly earlier.
We did.
But it's worth exploring further. Hadiths 4239 through 4243. Offer insight into how Islamic law distinguished between intentional and unintentional harm.
This distinction seems crucial, right?
It does.
Because it acknowledges that not all harmful actions stem from malicious intent.
Accidents happen.
Right.
And the law should reflect that reality.
Absolutely. Islamic law recognized this nuanced distinction, and the legal consequences varied accordingly. For instance, Hadith 4239 states that no financial compensation was required for a wound caused by an animal, a fall into a well or mine, or other similar accidents.
So even though harm was caused, there was no financial penalty imposed on the owner of the animal or the person responsible.
The underlying principle here was to differentiate between intentional harm, which warranted punishment or retribution, and accidental harm, which was viewed as an unfortunate occurrence, but not a punishable offense. This distinction reflects a profound understanding of human fallibility and the importance of considering intent when determining legal responsibility.
It also seems to emphasize personal responsibility, right?
It does.
If you were injured by an animal that was known to be dangerous, or that was inadequately secured, then there might be grounds for compensation. But if it was a genuine accident, then the law recognized that unfortunate events can occur without anyone being directly at fault.
This nuanced approach to accidental harm reflects a deep concern for fairness and proportionality in the application of the law. It highlights the importance of considering context, intent, and individual circumstances when assessing responsibility and determining appropriate consequences.
This has been such an eye-opening exploration of Islamic law.
It has.
I mean, we've gone from specific punishments to broader principles of justice, mercy, and societal well-being.
Absolutely.
And it strikes me that while some of these punishments and concepts might seem foreign or even harsh to modern sensibilities, they were rooted in a sincere effort.
I agree.
To create a just and equitable society within the context of their time.
It's crucial to remember that any legal system, including those rooted in religious beliefs, is a product of its time. It reflects the social norms, the cultural values, and understandings of justice prevalent in that particular historical period.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I'm left with a lot to ponder. How can we learn from these historical examples of Islamic law without condoning those aspects that clash with our modern understanding of human rights? How can we bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and contemporary values?
Those are important questions. And I think they lie at the heart of any meaningful engagement with the past. We can approach these texts with humility, acknowledging both the wisdom and the limitations of earlier societies. We can learn from their efforts to create a just and compassionate world while recognizing how our understanding of those very concepts has evolved over time.
And maybe by exploring these different approaches to law and justice, we can gain a deeper understanding of our own legal systems, the values they embody. And the challenges they face.
Absolutely.
In our ever-changing world.
History offers a rich tapestry of perspectives on how societies have attempted to regulate human behavior, uphold morality, and create a more just and harmonious world. By engaging with these diverse perspectives, we can broaden our own understanding of what it means to live ethically and responsibly in a complex and interconnected world.
Well said. It seems like every deep dive leaves us with more questions than answers.
It does.
But that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
It is.
It sparks our curiosity, challenges our assumptions, and encourages us to keep exploring.
For sure.
Keep questioning.
Yes.
And keep seeking a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Beautifully put. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of punishments in Islamic law.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
Through the intricacies of this legal system. And I hope it's left our listeners with a deeper appreciation for the complexities of history, the evolution of legal thought, and the enduring human quest for justice and mercy.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration.
It's been my pleasure.
Until next time, keep those echoes of Ihsan alive. In your hearts and minds.